In the cold silence of deep space, a Zetherian cruiser drifted near the edge of known territory, its hull scarred from battle alarms silent. But the damaged deep Princess Elena stood alone in the observation bay, her silver eyes fixed on the stars. Outside, she wore the royal armor, a living suit that clung to her form like a second skin. It shimmered faintly with every breath she took. The armor was more than protection. It was tradition. It was law. It marked her as pure, untouched by foreign biology, as all Zetherian royals must remain until their sanctioned union. But Elena felt hollow. For weeks she had been on a diplomatic mission to the outer rim worlds, meeting with minor species, discussing trade routes and border agreements. Nothing unusual, yet something inside her had shifted. She could not explain it, only that the vast emptiness of space felt heavier than before, as if the universe itself was waiting for something to change. Her thoughts were interrupted by a sharp tremor. Through the deck the ship lurched violently. Red lights flashed and the calm hum of the engines died, replaced by the hiss of failing systems. Intruders, came the voice of the ship's AI, calm but urgent. Raiders from the Void Clan, they have breached. The lower deck. Selena moved without hesitation. She activated her armor's combat mode, the surface rippling into hardened plates, energy filaments crackling along her limbs. She raced through the corridors, her long limbs carrying her swiftly past. Panicked crew members, Zetherians, were tall, graceful beings with smooth gray skin and eyes that glowed faintly in low light. They moved with precision, but fear was new to them and it slowed them down. Elena reached the command deck just as the last defense barrier collapsed. 3 raiders stormed in, their bodies covered in jagged cybernetics, their weapons humming with stolen tech. They were not here for negotiation. They were here for the princess. She fought with grace and fury, her armor responding. To every thought, every shift in balance, she disarmed the first raider with a fluid twist of her wrist. The second she stunned with a pulse from her gauntlet. But the third fired a plasma bolt that struck her side. The armor absorbed most of the blast, but the impact sent her crashing through the viewport wall. The emergency seals failed. Space swallowed her. For a moment there was nothing, only cold and silence, then pain as her armor struggled to seal the breach. Oxygen levels dropped, alarms screamed in her mind. But she was already falling toward the nearest planet, a barren world marked only as Kalis on star charts. Her last thought before darkness took her was not of duty or honor, but of how small she felt against the endless sky. Lily was knee-deep in black sand when she saw the fire in the sky. She had been collecting soil samples near the edge of the glass desert, her boots crunching on the sharp crystalline ground. The twin suns of Kalis beat down on her back, but she barely noticed. She was used to the heat, used to the silence, used to being alone. Kalis was a research outpost, not a colony. Just one small pod buried in the dunes and one human scientist assigned to study extremophiles, microbes that thrived in impossible conditions. Lily had chosen this posting not for glory, but for peace after years in crowded stations and noisy cities. She wanted quiet, but the fire in the sky was not quiet. It streaked across the atmosphere, trailing smoke and light, and crashed less than 5 clicks from her pod. Lily did not hesitate. She grabbed her emergency kit, her med scanner, and her sidearm. Not because she expected danger, but because protocol demanded it. She drove her all-terrain rover across the dunes, the wind howling. Around her, the black glass reflecting the fading light like shattered mirrors. She found the crash site quickly, a smoking crater, the air thick with ionized particles, and the smell of burnt metal. In the center lay a figure tall and slender, clad in strange armor that pulsed with a soft blue light. Lily approached slowly, her scanner beeping wildly. The readings made no sense. Organic and synthetic fused together, breathing but barely. She knelt beside the figure and carefully removed her helmet, revealing a face both alien and beautiful. High cheekbones, silver eyes, closed long lashes dusted with ash. Lily checked for injuries. The armor had cracked along the ribs and one arm, but the skin beneath was intact. She pressed 2 fingers to the alien's neck, searching for a pulse. Then the silver eyes opened. They locked onto Lily's with startling clarity, fear and strength mixed in their depths. "Do not move," the alien whispered, her voice rough, but melodious. "I am not here to hurt you," Lily said, softly. "I am Lily. I am alone here, just me and my pod. You are safe. The alien studied her for a long moment, then nodded slightly. My name is Elena. Lily helped her sit up slowly, supporting her weight. The armor groaned but held together barely. Elena winced but did not cry out. Cytherians did not show pain. It was weakness, and weakness was not allowed. Back at the pod, Lily cleaned the wounds as best she could. The armor would not let her remove it fully, but small sections retracted when she touched them. As if sensing her intent, she applied antiseptic and sealed the cracks with biogel, the kind used for deep space emergencies. For 3 days, Elena rested in the medical bay. Lily brought her water nutrient paste and sat with her during the long nights when the twin moons rose and cast silver shadows across the room. On the second night, Elena asked, "Why did you help?" Lily was stirring a pot of rehydrated stew. She did not look up because it was the right thing to do. You are human. You are. Alone here, you have no weapons, no defense if I had been hostile. But you are not. Lily said simply, and even if you were, I would have tried to understand. First, Elena was silent for a long time. Then she said, "Your kind is strange." "We are not so different," Lily replied. "You bleed, you breathe, you feel pain. We do not feel much," Elena said quietly. "Not anymore." That night, Lily noticed something odd. The cracks in Elena's armor were glowing faintly, not blue but gold, and the light seemed to pulse in time. With Lily's own heartbeat, she mentioned it the next morning. Elena looked down at her arm. Surprised the armor should reject foreign biology. It should not respond to you at all. "But it is," Lily said. Reaching out slowly, "May." Elena hesitated, then nodded. Lily touched the cracked section gently and the glow brightened. A soft hum filled the air like a distant song. Elena gasped, not in pain, but in wonder. It feels warmth that should not be possible, yet it was. On the third day, the Cytherian rescue signal finally activated. A faint pulse sent from the pod's comm array. Lily had triggered it the moment she brought Elena inside. But Cytherian ships moved slowly through contested space. They would not arrive for hours. Elena stood by the viewport watching the horizon, her armor still damaged but stronger than before. She turned to Lily. "You saved my life. I did what anyone would do." "No," Elena said, stepping closer. "Not anyone. Most would have left me to die or sold me to the highest bidder. You chose kindness. Without reward." Lily smiled a little. "Maybe I just liked the look of you." Elena did not understand the joke, but she felt something stir in her chest, something unfamiliar and soft in that moment. The armor across her chest split open just slightly. Not in damage, but in offering a thin filament extended toward Lily. Not threatening, but curious. Lily did not pull away. She held out her hand, the filament touched her palm, and light flooded the room. Not harsh, not blinding, but golden warm like sunlight. After a long winter, Elena felt it too. A resonance deep in her bones, a song her people had forgotten. Without thinking, she reached for Lily's face, her fingers brushing the human's cheek. And then she kissed her. It was not planned. It was not political. It was simply true. Lily did not pull away. She kissed her back. Her hands finding Elena's waist, the armor humming softly against her touch. When they parted, both were breathless. "What was that?" Elena whispered. Lily smiled. It was connection. Outside, the twin moons rose higher, casting their silver light over the black desert, and for the first time in centuries, Elena did not feel alone. The rescue ship would come soon. She knew that duty would call her back to the empire, to the throne, to the cold expectations of her people, but in this moment, in this small pod on a forgotten world, she had found something more valuable than duty. She had found truth, and she would not let it go, even if it meant defying everything she had ever known, even if it meant war. As the hours passed, they sat together on the floor of the pod, shoulders touching, hands intertwined, the armor still glowing softly around Elena's form, responding to Lily's presence like a flower to the sun. Lily spoke first. "What will you tell them?" Elena looked at her. "My people believe in purity and control and separation, and I believe in this," she said, squeezing Elena's hand. Elena nodded. "Then I will tell them the truth. You know they will not understand, maybe not at first, but truth has a way of growing, even in stone." Lily leaned her head on Elena's shoulder and closed her eyes. "For now we have this." "Yes," Elena whispered. For now we have this, and in the quiet of the pod beneath the twin moons, 2 hearts beat as one. Not because they were the same, but because they chose to listen to each other. The rescue ship would come. But the choice had already been made. The Zetherian rescue ship arrived at dawn, its sleek black hull hovering silently above the glass desert like a shadow given form. Elena stood outside the pod, her armor now mostly healed, its surface shimmering with faint golden veins that had not been there before. Lily stood beside her, wrapped in a thermal coat, her breath forming small clouds in the cold morning air. The ramp lowered and a squad of royal guards descended, their armor identical to Elena's but duller, lifeless. They bowed, as one. But their eyes flickered toward Lily with suspicion. "Princess Elena," the lead guard said, "you are to return to the Obsidian Spire at once. The Queen has summoned you." Elena nodded but did not move. She turned to Lily and took her hand. "I will not leave you behind." The guards stiffened but said nothing. They knew better than to question a royal directly, yet their unease was clearly squeezed. Elena's hand gently. "You do not have to do this for me." "I do," Elena said, "because if I return alone, they will erase you from the record. They will say you never existed." She turned back to the guards. "The human comes with me." A murmur passed through the ranks, but the lead guard gave a stiff nod. "As you command, Princess." The journey to the capital world took 3 days aboard the silent ship. Lily was given a small cabin and allowed to move freely. But she felt the weight of every stare. The Zetherians did not speak to her. They did not even look at her directly. They treated her like a ghost or a disease. Elena stayed with her as much as she could, bringing food, explaining customs, warning her of what to expect when they reached the Spirami. Mother is not cruel, Lily. She is rigid. She believes in order above all else. And what do you believe? And Elena looked at her for a long time, then said, "I believe in what I felt in your pod. I believe the armor chose you not by mistake, but by design." Lily touched the golden thread that now ran along Elena's forearm. It still glowed softly when she was near. "You really think your people will listen?" "I do not know," Elena admitted. "But I must try." When they arrived at the Obsidian Spire, the capital of the Zetherian Empire, the city rose like a forest of black crystal towers pulsing with inner light. The air hummed with energy and the streets were filled with tall, graceful beings moving in perfect unison. Lily had never seen anything so beautiful or so cold. They were taken directly to the grand hall where Queen Lyra waited, seated on her living throne, her silver eyes sharp as blades, her armor flawless and cold. Elena knelt as tradition demanded. Lily stood behind her, unsure of what to do. Queen Lyra's voice cut through the silence like Ice-Rise, "Daughter." Elena stood but did not step aside. She kept Lily in view. "Who is this human queen?" Lyra asked, though her tone made it clear she already knew. "This is Lily," Elena said. "She saved my life on Kalis." The queen's gaze shifted to Lily. "You interfered with royal affairs. I helped someone who was hurt," Lily said simply. A ripple of shock passed through the court. Zetherians did not speak unless spoken to. Especially not human. Queen Lyra leaned forward, her eyes narrowing. "You speak as if you are equal." "I am not asking to be equal, Your Highness," Lily said. "I am asking to be heard." Silence fell heavy and thick. Then the queen laughed, a dry sound with no warmth. "You are bold for a creature with such a short life." Elena stepped forward. "Mother." The armor changed when she touched it. It glowed. It healed. Faster it sang. The court gasped. The word "sang" was forbidden. Armor did not sing, it obeyed. Queen Lyra rose slowly, her form towering over them all. "You have been corrupted by emotion. You forget your duty." "No, Mother, I remember it better than ever. My duty is not just to tradition, but to our future." The queen's eyes flashed and she raised a hand. Guards seized the human. Before they could move, Elena's armor flared, gold light spreading across her body like fire. The guards froze in place, not from fear, but from awe. The light reached Lily and wrapped around her gently, not trapping but protecting. Queen Lyra stared at the glow, her expression shifting from anger to something deeper, confusion, recognition. "That light, it is the old resonance, the one from the Genesis text." Selena nodded. "Yes, Mother, the armor is not just a shell, it is alive, and it has been waiting for what?" For a partner, not just a wearer, Lily stepped forward. Slowly, the golden light followed her. She looked up at the Queen. Your people stopped bonding with life long ago. You sealed yourselves away thinking purity meant strength, but it only brought silence. How dare you? How dare I speak truth, Your Highness, or how dare I care for your daughter? The Queen fell silent. Elena took Lily's hand again, and the light brightened, filling the hall with warmth. The bioluminescent vines on the walls, which had been dim for decades, began to pulse softly, matching the rhythm of the glow. A scientist in the back row stepped forward. Trembling, Your Majesty, I have studied the armor for 50 cycles and never seen this reaction. Not even in the royal archives. Another voice joined hers. The birth rates have fallen for generations. Our young show signs of genetic fatigue. We assumed it was natural decline. But what if it is not? Queen Lyra looked from Elena to Lily to her people, her face unreadable. Take them to the Chamber of Echoes, she said finally. The Chamber of Echoes was deep beneath the spire, a place sealed for centuries where the first bond between Zetherian and armor had been made. The air was thick with ancient energy. The walls lined with fossilized vines and dormant crystals. Queen Lyra entered alone. First then gestured for Elena and Lily to follow. Stand together, she said. They did. Elena's armor split open along the chest and arms, golden filaments reaching for Lily, who held out her hands without fear. The moment they touched the chamber, came alive, light erupted from the floor. The crystals bloomed, the vines unfurled, petals of pure white and silver, and a sound filled the air, soft at first, then growing stronger. A song made of hums and chimes and heartbeats. Queen Lyra sank to her knees, tears forming in her silver eyes. I have not heard that song since I was a child. Elena knelt beside her mother, the light wrapping around them all. You were taught that purity meant isolation. But the truth is, purity without connection is empty. Lily placed a hand on the Queen's shoulder. Your people are not broken. They just forgot how to listen. For a long time no one spoke. The song filled the silence. Then Queen Lyra rose slowly. Her posture changed, not rigid but open. She turned to Lily. Human, you have done what no Zetherian could. You have reminded us of who we are. Lily bowed her head. I only showed what was already there. The Queen nodded, then looked at Elena. You will marry her, not as a political act, but as a promise. Elena smiled. Yes, Mother, as a promise. In the days that followed, the Empire began to change. Scientists studied the interaction between human DNA and Zetherian armor. They found that Lily's genetic markers activated dormant pathways in the symbiotic material, enhancing healing, cognitive function, and emotional depth. More surprisingly, Zetherian women who spent time near Lily reported feeling less isolated, more connected, as if a veil had been lifted. Queen Lyra ordered the archives reopened, ancient texts translated. The song recorded and shared. Other species took notice. Humans were no longer seen as primitive, but as keys to renewal. Ambassadors from distant worlds requested meetings not for trade, but for understanding. Lily was given a title not as a consort, but as the bridge. And Elena no longer wore her armor as a symbol of isolation, but as a testament to connection. One evening, as they stood on the balcony of the spire watching the twin moons rise, Lily leaned against Elena and whispered, Do you think we did the right thing? Elena wrapped an arm around her and smiled, the armor humming softly against Lily's back. We did not choose this path, Lily. It chose us, and sometimes that is enough. Below in the city, lights began to flicker. Not with cold energy, but with warmth, with life, with hope. And for the first time, in 10,000 years, the Zetherian people remembered how to feel, not just survive, but live. Queen Lyra joined them on the balcony. Later that night, she did not speak. At first, just watched the city breathe beneath the moons. She will be good for you, the Queen said. Finally, Elena nodded. She already is. The Queen turned to Lily. You will teach us. Lily met her gaze. I will try. That is all any of us can do. And in that moment, 3 hearts beat together, not because they were the same, but because they had chosen to listen. The Empire would not change overnight. There would be resistance, doubt, fear. But the song had returned, and where there was song, there was hope. Elena took Lily's hand, and together they faced the future, not as alien and human, but as partners, as equal as one. Weeks passed since the song returned to the Obsidian Spire, and the Zetherian Empire began to change not all at once, but like the first thaw after a long winter. Slowly at first, then with growing strength, news of the bond between Princess Elena and the human Lily spread across the stars. Some worlds dismissed it as myth. Others sent quiet inquiries seeking to understand how a species so long closed off had opened its heart. But not everyone welcomed the change. In the outer provinces, where tradition ran deep and suspicion deeper, a faction of nobles gathered in secret, their armor dark, their voices lower than shadows. They called themselves the Pure Blood Council, and they believed Elena's union with a human was not renewal but ruins, has defiled the line. One elder hissed, his voice crackling with static from his damaged vocal modulator. The armor sings for her, but it is a false song, a trick of weak biology. Another nodded. If we allow this, the Empire will fall not to war, but to decay. They made a plan, not with weapons, but with words. They would challenge Elena's right to rule. Not as a traitor, but as one unfit to carry the royal blood. Meanwhile, in the capital, Lily worked with Zetherian scientists in the biochamber beneath the spire. The room glowed with soft light as samples of armor and human cells interacted under glass domes. The results were clear. Lily's DNA did not corrupt the armor, it awakened it. Yet Lily felt uneasy. She noticed the stairs in the halls, the way some guards turned away when she passed, the silence that fell when she entered a room. Not all Zetherians hated her, but many feared her, and fear could be just as dangerous. Elena tried to reassure her, they will come around. But Lily shook her. Head, fear does not fade just because we wish it to. That night, as they rested in their shared quarters, a soft chime sounded at the door. It was Queen Lyra. She entered without waiting for reply, her expression grave. The council has called for a trial of worth, she said. Elena sat up. What does that mean? It is an old custom rarely used. It demands that a royal prove their bond is true. Not by decree, but by test. The council claims your union with Lily is unnatural and weak. They say if it is real, the armor will protect her in the trial. Pit Lily frowned. What is the trial? Pit, a place of ancient combat. Queen Lyra said, where the armor must choose between its wearer and an outside threat. If it fails to shield the bonded one, it means the bond is false and the union is void. Elena stood quickly. That is barbaric, it is law. The queen said softly, and if we refuse, it will look like we have something to hide. Lily looked at Elena, then at the queen. I will do it. No, Elena said. As Lily said gently, if this bond is real, then the armor will stand with me. If it is not, then better we know now than build a future on. Elena wanted to argue, but she saw the truth in Lily's eyes. This was not just about them. It was about trust. The trial was set for the next cycle. The pit was a circular arena deep beneath the spire, its walls lined with ancient runes that hummed when activated. At its center stood a pedestal where Lily would stand. Elena was not allowed to enter, only watch from above. The council members sat in high seats, their faces hidden behind silver masks. The queen sat apart, her expression unreadable. Lily walked into the pit alone, wearing only a simple tunic. No armor, no weapons, just her and the truth. The gates sealed behind. Here a low rumble filled the chamber, and from the floor rose a construct of pure energy shaped like a predator with glowing eyes and claws of plasma. It was not alive, but programmed to test the bond. It would strike at Lily, and the armor on Elena would have to respond without command. Elena stood at the edge of the viewing platform. Her fists clenched. The construct lunged. Lily did not run. She stood firm. At that moment, Elena's armor flared gold, not on her body, but across the space between them. A shield of light formed around Lily. Just as the construct struck, the impact sent shockwaves through the pit. But the shield held. Gasps rose from the council. The construct attacked again, faster this time, striking from three sides. But the shield reshaped itself, fluid and strong, wrapping around Lily like a second skin. Then something unexpected happened. The golden light reached out and touched the construct, not to destroy, but to calm the energy, softened the glowing eyes, dimmed, and the form dissolved into harmless mist. Silence filled the pit. Then the vines on the walls bloomed white flowers and the old song returned louder than before. Queen Lyra rose from her seat, her voice ringing through the chamber. The bond is true, the armor has spoken. The council members removed their masks one by one. Their faces not angry but awed. We were wrong. One whispered. Another bowed toward Lily. Forgive us, we feared what we did not understand. Lily stepped out of the pit and Elena ran to her, pulling her into a tight embrace. You were never alone. Not for a second. In the days that followed, the Empire changed faster. The council disbanded, its members became teachers, spreading the truth of the bond to the outer provinces. Schools opened where young Cytherians learned not just science but empathy. Lily was invited to speak at the Grand Assembly, not as a guest, but as a voice of the new way. We are not here to replace your ways, she told the gathered nobles. We are here to remind you that life grows, best when it reaches out, not when it closes, and even the oldest scientists admitted they had been wrong for centuries. They had treated the armor as a tool, not a partner, and in doing so, they had starved it of the very thing it needed: diversity, connection. Life. Queen Lyra announced a new era, the age of resonance, where bonds would be honored not just by blood but by choice. Elena and Lily were married not in a grand ceremony, but in the Garden of Echoes, where the stone flowers now bloomed year-round. They wore no crowns, only each other's hands in theirs. After the vows, Lily looked at Elena and smiled. So what now? Now, Elena said. We build, and they did. They traveled to distant worlds not as rulers but as listeners. They met with other species, shared stories, learned from them, and in return offered the song of the armor not as a weapon, but as a gift. On one such world, a desert planet much like Kalis, they met a young human girl orphaned by war. Lily knelt and held her hand. The girl's eyes wide. With fear. It is okay, Lily said softly. You are safe now. Elena watched and felt her heart swell. This was what the bond was for, not just for them, but for everyone. Years passed. The Empire grew not in size but in heart. The birth rates rose, the young were stronger, their minds brighter and their songs louder. Lily aged as humans do, her hair turning gray, her steps slower, but Elena never left her side. The armor, now woven with threads of silver and gold, responded to Lily's presence even when she slept. On her last day, Lily sat with Elena in the garden. The twin moons high above, you gave me everything, Lily whispered. No, Elena said, you gave us back. Our soul. Lily smiled and closed her eyes, the armor wrapped around them both, one last time. Warm and bright. When she was gone, Elena did not mourn in silence. She shared Lily's story with the stars so that no one would forget the human who taught an empire how to love. And in every blooming vine, in every child's laugh, in every note of the old song, the people remembered the end. Years after Lily's passing, the Cytherian Empire had changed in ways no one could have imagined. The obsidian spire no longer stood cold and silent, but hummed with life. Vines of silver and gold climbed its towers, and the air carried the soft echo of the old song. In every corridor, children played in the gardens where stone flowers once slept, now blooming in colors unseen for millennia. Princess Elena, now Queen Elena, ruled not from a throne of crystal, but from the heart of the people. She walked the streets without guards, spoke with farmers and scientists alike, and always carried a small locket around her neck. Inside it, a single strand of Lily's hair, and a tiny piece of the first golden filament that had reached for her on Kalis. But peace is never final on the far edge of known space. A new threat stirred not raiders or rebels, but something older, something the Cytherians had forgotten. The Void Weavers. They were not a species, but a force, a swarm of self-replicating machines left over from a war so ancient it had no name. They consumed worlds not for resources but for silence. They erased life, erased song, erased memory. The first warning came from a listening post near the rim. Its signal cut off mid-transmission. Only 3 words remained. Help us. Elena knew what it meant. The Void Weavers did not just destroy. They muted the resonance of living worlds, turning vibrant planets into dead husks. The Council of Elders gathered in the Grand Hall, their faces grim. We must seal the borders, one said. Build walls of energy. No machine can cross. Another shook his head. Walls will not stop them. They learn, they adapt. Elena stood at the center of the room, her armor glowing softly with the golden threads that had Grown stronger over the years, she had not worn it for war in decades, but now it hummed with purpose. "We will not hide." She said, "We will not build walls. We will sing louder." The elders looked at her uncertain. "The Void Weavers feed on silence," she explained. "They cannot stand resonance, true connection, life shared openly, that is our weapon. But how do we fight with song?" "Not with song alone," Elena said with truth. She called for a gathering, not just of Zetherians, but of all who had joined the New Way humans. From distant colonies, insectoid scholars from the crystal rings, avian diplomats from the sky nests, even former enemies who had once feared the bond now stood ready to defend. It among them was a young human woman named Maya. She was barely 20. With Lily's eyes and the same quiet strength, she had grown up on stories of the bridge and had come to the spire. Not to serve, but to continue. Queen Elena saw her and felt a warmth in her chest. "You look like her," Maya said softly. Elena nodded in more ways than one. Maya had studied the old records. She knew how Lily's DNA had awakened the armor, and she carried a vial of preserved cells, a gift from Earth's last archive. "I thought you might need this." Maya said. Elena took the vial gently. It glowed faintly in her palm. The plan was simple yet bold. They would not meet the Void Weavers in battle. They would meet them in harmony. A fleet of ships was prepared, not armed with plasma cannons but with resonance emitters tuned to the frequency of the old song. Each ship carried a living core, a piece of Zetherian armor bonded with a volunteer from many species. Elena would lead from the front, her ship the Dawn Chorus, its hull lined with blooming vines and singing crystals. As they neared the edge of the void zone, the stars grew dim, the silence thick and heavy like fog. Then they saw it, a planet once blue and green, now gray and still no wind, no sound, no life. The Void Weavers hovered above it, like black clouds made of glass and wire. Elena gave the signal. The fleet spread out in a wide circle and activated the emitter-sat first. Nothing happened. The silence pressed in harder. Then Elena stepped onto the observation deck of her ship and placed her hand on the hull. Her armor flared gold, the golden thread spreading across the ship's surface. She began to hum the old song one by one. The other ships joined in, not with weapons but with voices, with heartbeats, with memories. Maya stood beside her, humming too, her human voice blending. With Elena's alien tone, the Void Weavers twitched. They had never heard this before. Not noise but meaning, not chaos but connection. The resonance grew stronger, the golden light spreading from ship to ship, forming a net of song across the dead planet. Deep below the surface, something stirred. A single flower pushed through the ash, then another. The Void Weavers recoiled, their forms flickering as if in pain. They were built to erase, but they had no defense against creation. The net of song tightened not to destroy but to heal. One by one, the machines fell silent, not broken but stilled, their purpose undone by the very thing they sought to erase, life that refused to be quiet. When it was over, the planet was not restored, but it was breathing again. Thin grasses grew in the cracks of stone, birds returned from hidden caves, and the wind carried the first notes of a new song. The fleet returned to the spire, not as warriors but as gardeners. Back in the capital, Maya stood with Elena in the garden of echoes. "Do you think Lily would be proud?" she asked. Elena looked at the blooming vines and smiled. She would say, "We finally learned how to listen." In the weeks that followed, the Empire did not celebrate with feasts or parades. Instead, they planted trees on every world they visited, each one grown from seeds carried in the hulls of the Dawn Chorus. Maya stayed at the spire, not as a guest, but as a teacher. She worked with young Zetherians, showing them how human hands could heal as well as build. Elena watched her and saw not just Lily's legacy but its future. One evening, as the twin moons rose, Maya asked a question that had been on her mind. "Will the Void Weavers return?" Elena did not look away from the sky. "Yes, they will. Silence always returns." Then, "What do we do?" Sing louder. And so they did. In every home, in every school, in every ship that sailed the stars, the song grew stronger. Not because it was perfect, but because it was shared. Elena knew her time as queen would one day end, but the bond would not die. It would pass to others like Maya, like the children playing in the gardens, like every being who chose to reach out instead of shut in. The Empire was no longer just Zetherian. It was a chorus of many voices, many hearts, many kinds of love, and in the center of it all stood the truth that Lily had shown them long ago, that no one is too small to change the universe. As the years turned, Elena grew older, her silver eyes still sharp, her armor still glowing with golden light. She walked, slowly now but never alone. Maya walked beside her. Then others joined them, humans, Zetherians, and many more. They did not speak much. They did not need to. The song said everything, and far beyond the rim where stars were born and died, the Void Weavers waited in the dark, but they would never win, because somewhere in the endless sky a human girl had once shown an alien princess how to feel, and that feeling had become a song, and that song would never end. Time moved like a slow river through the Zetherian Empire, and the world had grown softer, kinder. The obsidian spire, now known as the Singing Spire, stood not as a symbol of power, but of welcome. Its black towers wrapped in living vines that bloomed. With every sunrise, Queen Elena walked its gardens less often now. Her steps slower, her silver hair long and braided with golden threads from her armor. Yet her eyes still held the same quiet fire that had defied an empire decades ago. Maya had taken on more duties, not as a ruler but as a guide. She traveled between worlds, teaching young ones how to listen, not just with ears, but with hearts. She carried Lily's locket, now passed down from Elena, and in it, the same strand of hair and filament that had started it all. But peace, like all things, needs tending. On a quiet morning, a signal came from the outer rim, not a cry for help, but a question, simple and strange: who sings for the silent ones? The message repeated every hour from a dead zone, a place long thought empty of life. Elena summoned Maya to the Garden of Echoes, where the stone flowers still bloomed year-round. "What do you think it means?" Maya asked. Elena touched a petal that glowed faintly in her hand. "The Void Weavers are gone, but silence remains in their wake. Maybe this is a voice from that silence." They prepared a small ship, not a war vessel, but a vessel of hope. Named the Quiet Bloom, Maya would lead the mission. Elena would stay behind. Her time for long journeys had passed. Before Maya left, Elena pressed the locket into her palm. "This is not just memory, Maya, it is a key." Maya nodded and boarded the ship with a small crew: 2 Zetherians, a human engineer, and a young avian navigator who had never seen a dead world. They traveled for 12 days through the gray zone, where stars dimmed and comms grew weak. On the 13th day, they found it, a planet wrapped in mist. No cities, no ruins, just endless plains of ash and silence. The signal came from the center. They landed, the Quiet Bloom, and stepped onto the surface. The air was still, no wind, no sound, not even the hum of insects. Then they saw it, a structure half buried in the dust, not built, but grown twisted black metal, fused with bone and crystal. It pulsed faintly, like a slow heartbeat. The signal came from inside. Maya approached slowly, her hand on the locket. It grew warm. At the entrance, a figure waited. Not machine, not living, but something in between, tall and thin, with eyes like cracked glass. It did not speak, but tilted its head as if listening. Maya took a breath and hummed the old song softly. The figure flinched, then stepped aside. Inside the structure was a chamber filled with thousands of small pods, each one holding a being frozen in time. Not dead, but waiting, their faces peaceful. Their bodies still. They were the lost ones, taken by the Void Weavers, not destroyed but silenced. Stored away like broken tools. But they were not broken. Maya understood now. The signal was not a call for rescue. It was a question: do you still remember us? She opened the locket and placed it on the central console. The golden filament inside glowed bright, and the song poured out. Not just sound, but feeling, warmth, memory. One by one the pods opened. The first to rise was a child no older than 6, with Zetherian eyes and human skin. A hybrid born in the early days of the New Age, left behind when the Weavers came. Maya knelt and held the child's hand. "You are safe now." The others followed slowly, confused but not afraid. They gathered around Maya and the crew. Their voices weak at first, then stronger as they joined the song. The figure at the door watched, then stepped forward and touched its chest, where a small light flickered to life. It was not enemy. It was Guardian left behind to protect the sleepers until someone came, who still sang Maya named it Keeper. They brought the survivors back to the singing spire one by one, each given a home, a name, a place in the chorus. Selena met them all holding their hands, listening to their stories, even the ones too painful to speak. She understood silence better than most. Among the rescued was an old woman with silver hair and tired eyes. She looked at Elena and whispered, "You kept the song alive." Elena nodded, and tears fell for the first time in years. The woman was Dr. Lee, a scientist from Earth's last colony. She had worked with Lily long ago and had been taken during the first wave of Weaver attacks. She carried a data chip hidden in her sleeve. On it were Lily's final notes, not just on biology but on hope. We knew they would come, she had written. But we also knew someone would answer. The chip also held a map, not of stars but of other silent places, other worlds where the Weavers had stored life. The work was not done. Maya did not rest. She gathered a new fleet, not for war but for rescue ships named after flowers, the sun petal, the night bloom, the dawn root. Each carried a core of living armor and a crew of many kinds. Elena stood on the balcony. As the first ships launched, her hand on the railing, her armor glowing softly in the twin moonlight. "You are sending them into danger," Maya said, joining her. "I am sending them into hope." Elena replied, "And if they fail, then others will sing for them." Maya smiled and leaned against the rail beside her. In the months that followed, more survivors returned, each one adding their voice to the chorus. Schools opened for the lost ones, healing centers for those too wounded to speak. Yet the Empire did not grow proud. It grew humble, for it had learned that saving others was not strength but duty. Keeper stayed at the spire not as a guest but as a teacher. It showed the young how silence could be a prison and how song could be a key. Lee worked with Maya to update the resonance emitters using Lily's notes. They found that the song worked best when it included many voices, not just Zytherian or human, but all who had been touched by the Bondone evening. Dr. Lee sat with Elena in the garden. "She would be proud of you," Elena said. Dr. Lee nodded. Lily always believed in second chances. As the seasons turned, the quiet bloom returned again and again, each time with more souls, each time with more hope. The last mission was to a world deep in the void, zoned so far that no signal had ever reached it. Maya led it herself. When they arrived, they found not pods but a single tree growing in the center of a dead city, its leaves silver, its roots deep in ash. Beneath it sat a small figure wrapped in cloth. Maya approached alone. The figure looked up and smiled. It was a child no older than 3 with eyes that glowed faintly gold. In its hand, it held a flower made of light. Maya knelt and hummed the old song. The child joined in, and the tree bloomed. They brought the child home and named her Echo. She did not speak much, but when she sang, the whole spire listened. Elena held her once and felt the same warmth she had felt in Lily's pod so long ago. The cycle was complete, not with an end, but with a beginning. Years later, when Elena's time finally came, she did not die in silence. She died surrounded by song. Maya, Echo, Dr. Lee, Keeper, and hundreds more gathered in the Garden of Echoes, their voices rising together. Not in mourning but in gratitude. As her last breath left her body, the vines on the spire glowed brighter than ever, and the old song filled the sky. Maya placed the locket in Elena's hands and whispered, "We will keep singing." And they died. Echo grew strong and wise, her voice clear and bright. She traveled the stars not as a princess but as a listener. Just as Lily had been, the Empire did not fall. It grew not in size but in soul. And in every rescued world, in every child's laugh, in every note of the endless song, the truth remained that no one is too small to matter, that love is not weakness but the strongest force in the universe, and that even in the deepest silence, someone will always answer. The end.